Hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today. Not all Agent Assist is the same. Learn about the levels of AI-supported real-time guidance. We're so excited for you to be joining us. My name is Kimberly. I'm the growth marketer here at Balto, and I'm joining you here today from Los Angeles, California. I'm going to put my email here in the chat in a minute. You can reach out to me directly if you have any questions about our webinars, have any feedback about today, or suggestions for future topics. I would love to have all of you introduce yourselves too. If you wouldn't mind dropping your name and where you're at in the chat, let's say hi. We're going to have some time for a Q&A here at the end, so please add your questions in the Q&A tab. It's in the same panel as the chat, so you can toggle between chat and Q&A there. We are recording this webinar, and I'll send you a link in the next couple of days, so be on the lookout for that. And without further ado, that's it for housekeeping. You're not here to hear from me. I want to bring up Dan, who's going to introduce himself and the rest of our team here today.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kimberly, and good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Depending on where you are, my name is Dan Floyd. I lead sales here for Balto and our go-to-market strategy, and I'm thrilled to be here with you. I've got a background with multiple conversational AI organizations and spent the last 4 or 5 years really digging deep into some facets of that side of the business. I'd like to make a few introductions, and then we're going to talk a little bit about what we're going to go through today. I'm going to be joined here shortly by Christina Knoll, Director of Customer Success. Christina started at Balto a little over 3 years ago and now works with many of our largest customers. Christina is absolutely fantastic. Eric Whipple, Customer Success Manager. Eric's responsible for helping configure content, build things, ensure it's working well for your needs, and ultimately driving value for our customers. Sebastian Armstrong, Director of Implementation and Support. Sebastian's team is charged with ensuring that Balto gets set up, stays working smoothly and properly. And we're also thrilled to be joined by Lisa Scott. Lisa is a customer of Balto. Lisa is the Manager of Proceed Relations team at Proceed Finance. For those unfamiliar, Proceed Finance offers financing for uninsured procedures. Lisa manages the team that assists the needs of both their providers as well as their applicants. So really excited about the panel that we've got here today. So let me set some stakes out for what we're going to be talking through today. Seems like universally across the board right now, every contact center, every customer that we talk to, every organization just across the board is trying to solve some of the same tensions. You need agents to follow a process. You need them to stay compliant, but you don't want them to sound like a robot. You need it to sound organic. We don't want it to sound like they're reading from a script, and we never want to lose that authentic, organic feeling. Agent Assist. Agent Assist is what our agents, or how our agents know what to say and when. But there are a few different levels, and Agent Assist is one of those things for anyone who's ever tried it and used it. It's really challenging to get it right and do it right. So today we're going to take you through a few different kinds of Agent Assist and also what we've done at Balto to truly level up our game and deliver the most value that we can for our customers. We got a 10 of 10 G2 review from an agent a couple of weeks ago. We pay very close attention to those. But they did have one complaint. They said, sometimes I get tongue twisted because it doesn't sound like I'm saying it from my heart. We take this feedback very personally because we know the agent experience translates directly to the customer experience, as I'm sure many of you have seen as well. So for more on how we at Balto are building to optimize for the absolute best agent experience possible, I would like to bring in Christina Knoll, who spends every single day working with our customers to maximize the value they get from their Balto relationship. Christina.
Hey, Dan, thank you so much. Yeah, working here at Balto over the last 3 years, been really fortunate to work with so many different of our customers and really get to see how our technology has evolved with the technology that's getting released out there and how we continue to be part of that. So at Balto, we've spent over a decade really at the forefront of that contact center space, guiding over 500 million real customer conversations with over 300 plus trusted organizations. And it's really that depth of experience combined with our strong partnerships and that institutional knowledge that really drives how we continue to innovate. So every enhancement we deliver isn't just powered by what's current, that emerging technology, but really grounded in our experience in this space. So as the technology gets better, our tools continue to get better with that added insight of really focused on that contact center experience. So as Dan mentioned, one of our most recent updates really focuses on one of our core features, our Agent Assist feature, and an area where we really continue to push some meaningful innovation. So this release is really a major step in moving forward and improving our real-time guidance and assistant for your agents live on the call. And then in the next few months, our R&D team and our leadership team is working on some really exciting additional advancements to our Agent Assist platform. So if you're excited at all about what we shared today during our demo and what I'm going to talk about in a little bit, it's just part of the foundation that's going to continue to evolve over the next few months. So definitely stay tuned. So now I'm going to jump into our update of what we wanted to share today. So when your agents are on the phone meeting with your customers, clients, patients, etc., some of those language that you need them to share needs to be verbatim. It's an insurance disclosure. It's a mini Miranda. It's a consent statement. It's something that some of the older models, keywords, large language phrase matching models work really well in those types of situations. And we want to keep that importance. But there are some limitations, kind of like what Dan said, that it can remove some of the ability for variance in call flow and personality. Or if two things are very similar on your call, like the opening and the greeting and the closing of the call, both thank the customer for calling. Those can overlap and provide some confusion for the models. So what really matters most in these situations is that the topics that were discussed and not necessarily verbatim what was being said. And you want to make sure you have both sides of that puzzle. And then there's a lot of in between as well. So when every call is treated like a strict compliance script, based off of that feedback, agents can risk sounding robotic, missing some nuances, and prevent from building that rapport. So what we really wanted to drive is how do we accomplish all of these different scenarios live on a call. We're talking to so many different types of customers. There's so many different directions that things can go. And whether you're talking to a patient or a provider can be a very different conversation and how we want to present ourselves. So to solve this, we've introduced our AI checklist triggers. Using AI prompting, your checklist now can trigger based on a really wider contextual reasoning. So just some examples, and we'll go a little bit more over this in the demo, is when wording really varies natural call to call and you're looking for the context of what is you want to convey. Another example is if you want your agents not only to ask a question, but your customer to respond as well. So if you want them to say, do you agree with this statement? And you want, in order for the agent to guide the customer well, you need the customer to also respond with an affirmative of I agree or yes. And you need both sides of that in order for this item to trigger to tell your agents you've hit this requirement. You need both sides. That's a new advancement that now we can take into account. So you need your agent to ask a question. You also need your customer to give that affirmative. That is now included. Things where you're tracking outcomes or confirmation. So instead of just saying, thank you for calling, you also want that agent to confirm the date of the appointment, mention how long the appointment's going to be, and that all decision makers are there. They need to hit all three of those things in order for that wrap up of that call. So your checklist can now say, do our closing or make sure to gather the closing information. And as long as those agents are hitting those requirements, that would check off. Or you could have it a verbatim. So as a statement, as like that they need to say these word for word. So now we're really able to take into account all these different types of situations. So just to give one direct example of this, one of our largest customers in healthcare sales has a really complex call flow that has multiple verbatim disclosures that need to be said, and not just the first few sentences of that disclosure, but the whole thing in order for that guidance to be triggered. They also have items that require, as I said, like the agent to ask a question and the customer to confirm, giving their affirmative answer. And also situations where there's just more general discovery, like what did they like or dislike about their previous provider? And these are things that need to be more fluid and flexible and can present in many different ways. So with Balto's updates, we can now support and guide the agents through all these types of scenarios. And what we've really been talking about so far is like that main call flow as what we call at Balto the checklist. And so, in addition to those main call flows, as you probably know, I'm talking to anyone on the phone, there's often objections, edge cases, questions that can vary in conversations really beyond that main call flow. So, this is something that we set out to solve a few years ago with our dynamic prompts, which is where content dynamically appears to give guidance to your agents on certain topics. So, if a question comes up on a call, that maybe doesn't come up on every call that you don't need on your main call flow. But if this comes up, if there's an objection or a question around a promotion that you're having, we want to provide some guidance to the agents as well in that dynamic situation. So you probably guessed it. We've also brought these same updates for with our AI triggers to our dynamic prompts. So you get all the flexibility of our AI checklist triggers also applies to these dynamic situations. So instead of saying, we need to think of every single way someone could ask a question about budget, we can say, if budget comes up on this conversation, these are the types of things that we want our agents to respond with. So really our goal is to optimize for the best customer and agent experience by having our agent assist really be able to handle the way that your agents actually talk, from verbatim disclosures to natural flexibility of a conversation, and just really be supported and guided throughout the entirety of the call. So in addition to these trigger type updates, we've also made it easier to implement these by giving an auto prompt generator. So we'll start with some suggestions based off of the intent you're looking for. Instead of starting with a blank screen, you're going to get some really good suggestions on how to get these prompts started. And even if you just clicked save and go, you're already off to the races. So we're really making that setup as easy as possible. And then also give you a reel-in editor tool to test and refine before anything goes live. So we all know it's nice to have some extra control and be able to test things, see what it's going to look like before you push that live for your agents. But later in this webinar, in our demo, we'll go over some of those scenarios and more in detail and what it actually looks like to set these up. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Eric and Lisa from Proceed Finance to talk a little bit about their experience using this Agent Assist in their day-to-day contact center. So over to you guys.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Christina. I appreciate that. My name is Eric Whipple. I'm a customer success manager here at Balto. I'm joined today by Lisa Scott. She is one of my beautiful clients. Lisa, why don't you take a moment and just introduce yourself, please? Oh, Lisa, I think you might be on mute. Well, while we're dealing with a little bit of the microphone issues here, Lisa is the manager of the Proceed Relations team. She manages a team of about 18 people there. She assists with the needs of both the providers and their applicants, and Proceed offers financings for uninsured procedures there. I have been working with Lisa and her team for a little over a year now. Proceed has been a Balto customer for about 3 years. They've kind of been with us throughout the process. They've seen sort of how our checklists have evolved throughout the various iterations that we've done, and they've recently started using our AI checklist as well. Lisa, is your microphone working? Unfortunately, no. Just a minute here, everyone. We'll get this settled up, and we'll bring Lisa right back out front.
Lisa's going to be rejoining us shortly. Just one moment. Thank you for the intro, Eric.
Absolutely, you guys.
All right, Lisa, can we
Now?
hear you now? Yes, we can. All right, I'm leaving.
Yes, ma'am, Lisa. Well, if you don't mind, like I said, everything with the intro sound correct with Proceed Finance in your position? Perfect. Very good. And like I
Yes,
said,
sorry about that.
no worries at all. And like I've said, you've been a Balto customer for a little while. I have had the direct pleasure of working with you for a little over a year. Tell me, when we originally set up your checklists, how do we set up those checklists in the past for your agents?
So when we first joined Balto, it was really exciting as we wanted consistency within the agents. So we took kind of some catchphrases that some of our top agents would use, or just some general statements that they all would use, and start with those generic statements for the team, and created our checklist kind of just based on, well, in a robotic type call, it would kind of look like this.
Mm-hmm. And what was the feedback that
Kinda
you
how we
saw from
got
your
started.
agents around that?
They're really excited at first just for the tool in general. We
Mhm.
use it really, really high level for training, but as they got used to it and got kind of what can Balto do for me, they felt very limited to what they could say, because they felt like they had to read it word for word and script for script. So to kind of work through that, we looked at our playbooks and kind of try to make them more personal and just do a little bit more enhancement to them. There's ways you can personalize those playbooks. Like certain people say, how can I help you today, in a different way, or they close the call in a different way. So there's certain things I can lock down and certain things that I left free form. And we would encourage the agents to go in and just make it your own, make it sound like you. This isn't like, we're not locking you down. It's just a prompt in that training tool to use.
Yes, I like that. I think that's great practice, honestly, for your agents. However, I know because you guys provide financing, you guys probably have some required disclosures and things. What types of disclosures do your agents encounter on their phone calls?
When we first started with Balto, we had probably a lot more than we have now, since we did change the way we do our platform. But we do have one particular word for word disclosure that we have to read every time an applicant makes a change or something like that. So that is kind of a lifesaver in training, where you used to be able to know exactly where is it. And now Balto is already ready. It already pops it up. We put it in that playbook. As the agents go through the steps, it's right there ready for them to go. They know they have to read that word for word, and then they can go back casual. Once they like, this is kind of wordy, let me get through it. They do all the steps, but Balto's right there with them right along the way. So it works great.
Excellent. And you have that disclosure set up in a dynamic prompt to trigger naturally on the phone call?
Yes. And it celebrates when they're done. You know, there's so many fun things that you can do, but it is set up word for word. So it comes up right when it recognizes it's coming and asks for it. And then it's right there for them.
Perfect. I love that. And I'm with you. We love the win marker here. I like that little pop of excitement that it adds to each call. Along the lines of dynamic prompts,
Yeah.
have you set up any other prompts that your agents are using on their phone calls?
Yes. One thing that I really like about the dynamic prompts is the ability to change them, take them away, add them at any time. In our industry, things change all of the time. Right now, we're doing a push in the Google review world. So we've added a link to the Google review. If that would kind of come up, Balto would recognize that. It's going to come up, so they have the link right there to share. We have a push for auto enrollment on ACH payment. So that link is right there. If someone's asking about it or needs it, they don't have to fumble around in their toolbox to find it. Balto, it has it right there. We've embedded it into that conversation for them. And if we have a promotion or a new product, we can remind them what this product is about if they need to speak to it. And it's just right there in the dynamic prompts. And then when they get used to it, we can update it or change it and take it away. So it's just that side of the playbook has really been a lifesaver as far as training and then keeping up with all the changes and trying to remember everything you have to speak to in this financing world.
Yeah, I hear that. And excellent feedback, Lisa. Honestly, I know I'm very excited to be working with your team on this, particularly as we utilize those AI prompts for those dynamic prompts that you've built out. I'd love to hear feedback as we start to roll those out. So perfect. Just to sort of wrap this up, I know we've talked about kind of scripting and prompts and how Balto, is going for that language model. How have you worked around any frictions that you've seen with any of that scripting in the past? Have you mostly stayed with, the customization? Have you guys tried any other things along those lines?
when it came to the friction, we just try to make it be as personal. We talked a little bit about earlier about making it more personal, allowing the agent to kind of change a few things, and then learning from Balto itself with the reporting and the things you can ask it. It will guide you whatever you need it to do. So at any friction point, and then of course you have helped me create things that I've needed to, you have somebody that works side by side with you throughout your partnership, that I could never figure out on my own. So like, let's try this or let's test that. And so whenever we have a friction point, you guys have always had a solution, or you take it to the table and you create a solution. So it's been, I can't say there's not anything that we haven't been able to tackle in one way or another.
Well, thanks, Lisa. I appreciate that as well. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be working with your team. I'm dedicated and committed. So I'm also very excited to be rolling out these AI items for you guys. I'd love to see feedback as we start to implement. Quick question, I promise this is the last one today. We have implemented a few of these for your team already. Do you have any feedback for us for the webinar?
So we're just getting started in this. We built a couple, and we're in the testing was probably the most fun as we went through. Okay, where do we want this to live? We'd have AI help us a little bit in just some generic. We're trying to get some feedback on the ability to access our platform. So we put some triggers in there to listen to both sides, and then Eric and I would role play and do the testing, and then to see if it worked. Like, okay, it didn't capture what I wanted it to capture. So we did go live 2 days ago, I think, with the AI in just one of my playbooks, and the team is just recognizing it. So it's not invasive or a huge change, but they did notice a few different changes that assisted them, and probably mostly in the dynamic prompts, as they're pretty seasoned and used to Balto now. But I'm really excited to get them across the board. And as I get used to doing the research, doing the testing on my own, I'll get them all out there. But right now, this first one has really been fun.
Awesome, Lisa. Well, thank you again for joining us today. I do really appreciate it. Definitely keep me posted as we continue to roll this out. Let me know what your agents think. And like I said, I'm here to help. So whatever you need, definitely give me a shout. Perfect.
Will do. Thank you so much.
Of course, y'all. Now, next in the webinar, we're going to be transitioning. I've got Sebastian coming up. He is my director of implementation. So he'll be showing us this new feature, sort of how it works in Balto, as well as some implementation of that as well. So Sebastian, to you, sir.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Lisa. Really appreciate the introduction. Hi, everyone. As Eric mentioned, my name is Sebastian Armstrong. I'm the Director of Implementation and Support here at Balto. And today, what I want to walk you through is how to actually get these AI triggers set up within your playbook for your checklists and for your dynamic prompts. A little earlier, Christina gave you a great overview of what they look like and in what ways we can use them. And I want to show you what it's like to actually get one set up. So from a high level, we want this to be as easy as possible for you. You're the expert in your contact center, but we don't expect you to be an expert in AI prompt engineering. Our prompt builder is here to help you, and our customer success teams, our implementation teams, our prompt engineering teams are here to help as well, to make sure that you're getting the most out of your prompts as you're implementing these into your playbooks. So let's first take a look at how we can build these AI triggers into your Balto checklist. I'll go ahead and share my screen and we'll dive right in. All right, so I've got a playbook here set up for us with a few different checklist items. The first thing I want to take a look at is those overlapping items that we talked about. You may find that some of your checklist items have overlapping parts, which may trigger them unexpectedly on a call. We can differentiate these using the AI triggers and ensure that they check off only when the context matches what you're expecting for those. So in this playbook, I've got two overlapping checklist items. I've got the greeting. Hi, thank you for calling Balto. My name is blank. And then the closing. Thank you for calling Balto. Have a wonderful day. In both of these situations, we want to thank the customer for calling us, but we don't want us thanking the customer at the beginning of the call to check off at the end of the call, and vice versa. So what we can do is, when we go to edit the specific checklist item, you'll see the new AI checklist trigger feature here. You can toggle this on, and you'll see that there is right away our prompt builder. So I'm going to go ahead and put a prompt in here. letting the system know we only want this to check off when the agent greets the customer at the beginning of the call. Don't check it off at the end of the call. Our prompt builder will suggest enhancements that you can use to make your prompt better. So you can just type in whatever comes to mind, whatever simple information that you want the system to know, and then we'll review that prompt and make suggestions to enhance it and get a little more reliability out of it as we see. So it's as easy as clicking here to apply. You can apply that new suggested prompt. And as well below, you'll see that we have a prompt tester. Now there's two ways to test the prompts that you create. The first is by entering a call ID. So if you have a specific example of a call that you want to go through and see, would that have passed with this prompt that I have set up? You can find that call, grab the Balto call ID and enter it here. Second way is using raw text. And with the raw text, you can select which side of the conversation you want to test. So let's say if the agent is saying this greeting, you can come in and type in some raw text of what a greeting might look like. So I've got a couple examples here. For this prompt, we're looking to see when the agent says, "Thank you for calling Balto. My name is Sebastian. How can I help you today?" That should pass. And when we test that prompt, we'll see that the system says, "Yep, that looks good." That would check this off if we get that on a call. And our other scenario is when we're ending the call. So if I were to type in, "Thanks again for calling Balto. Hope you have a good rest of your day. Goodbye." That is going to show a failure. That would not check this item off when we're testing it to make sure that we're differentiating the greeting and the closing on our calls. So you can test that with real calls, with different phrases that you might think, and see, if an agent says it one way, are they still going to get credit for this, and be able to use that to tweak and tune your prompt to make sure that you're getting what you need. Now, anytime you're working in the playbooks, we always like to remind you to go ahead and save your drafts. That's very important to make sure that all the hard work you're doing gets saved over time. That's just helpful in general. So we can also come into the closing and make sure that the closing is differentiated and be able to tell the system, "Hey, only check this off if they say goodbye." We don't want this to check off if they greet the customer. And again, our system will review the prompt and suggest enhancements where we can add a little more know-how, a little more reliability into those prompts. And again, you can just quickly click to apply. So the other use case we'll take a look at is the verbatim requirement. Now, let's say you've got something that you need to enforce strictness on for compliance purposes. Maybe that is a recording disclosure or a consent statement. It has to be said exactly as it's written. There cannot be any variation. With the AI checklist trigger, you are able to do just that. You can add in a prompt to tell the system, "Hey, this should only check off if this phrase is said exactly as it's written." So in this case, we're telling the system, check off if the agent reads the recording disclosure verbatim. For quality and training purposes, this call will be recorded. Any wording or order changes may be recorded. This is being monitored. For assurance purposes, do not count. So you can tell the system, "Hey, we're looking for this phrase exactly, no variations." Now that can be done, as I mentioned, for disclosures, consent statements, anything that is really important to ensure that the agents are saying it exactly as written. So we can go ahead and save that here as well. The other scenario that we can take a look at is the opposite, adding increased flexibility. So for some of our checklist items, we may not care exactly how the agents are saying them, but we just want to make sure that they get the meaning across, that they get the point over to the customer as they're talking to them. So for something like, "How can I help you today?" Now, the way that they say that, we don't really care too much. That's maybe not that important. We want to give the agents flexibility to be able to say things the way that they say them. So if we've got one agent that's just saying that basic phrase, "How can I help you today?" Another agent that's got, goes a little more into it. "Hey, hope you're having a great day. How are things? What are you calling in about today?" In both of those situations, the AI checklist trigger allows us to expand what we're looking for and allow that to check off with the intention being said. So We can add in a prompt that will tell the system to check this off when the agent asks what issue the customer is calling in about, or a way that they can assist the customer. So we want to make sure that they're communicating that point, but how they say it can vary. So this will allow that flexibility so that the agents can keep their own natural language on calls and not have to worry about saying things exactly as they're written in cases where that's not really important. And our prompt editor is telling us that this prompt looks good, so we can go ahead and save this. Now, the other place that we've brought these AI triggers to are our dynamic prompts. So with our dynamic prompts, we already have a few different kinds of triggers. We've got our smart phrases, our AI library, different keywords. With this LLM, this AI prompt trigger, this allows you to use natural language to define how you want the dynamic prompt to pop up. So this allows us to add in some extra context. So now I've got this budget objection that may come up on a call. You know, someone may be calling in saying, hey, this price is too high. We don't have the budget for this. We can't afford this right now. But maybe they're also you're talking about the budget in a different context on the call. Like, oh, you know, we're about to get our budget for next year. I think let's go ahead and plan this in for that. And we don't necessarily want the objection to pop up in those cases. So with our prompt, we can go in and specify all of that context. We can give it as much context as we want so that the system is looking for exactly what you're wanting to trigger for this item. So in this case, we're telling the system check off if the budget or price or affordability issue is raised as an objection on the call, either by the customer or by the agent as they're acknowledging it. The customer might say something like, it's too expensive, that's not in my budget, I can't afford that right now. The common things that we would hear to expect to trigger this budget dynamic prompt. And then the agent might say something like, I understand budget is tight, I hear you on price. But then we're also adding in the caveat. If the customer mentions the budget in a positive way, we're not going to trigger this item. So if they're saying, yeah, we have the budget for that, that's great, or we can afford that this quarter, no problem. The system's going to be able to intelligently listen and know, okay, hey, budget was mentioned in a positive way. Let's not bring up this dynamic prompt. It's not useful right now. Let's continue on and find the places that are useful to bring up to the agents on their calls. So again, we have the same tester here. We've got a test case here. Like for this, we have if someone is mentioning that something's expensive, they're bringing up why did my monthly costs go up. We're able to test any of those phrases or any calls using the tester and be able to see, hey, is this going to pop up the way that we expect it to? So I'll go ahead and end my screen share here. And then I will pass things over to Dan to wrap things up on our call today.
All right. Thank you, Sebastian, and great job. So I noticed there were a few questions. We're going to get to those here in a moment when we get to the Q&A section. But as you've heard, taking Agent Assist really to the next level, having it adapt to how your agent's conversations actually flow rather than how they are scripted. We know the outcomes are going to improve. You're going to have happier customers, happier patients, more realistic QA and compliance scores. So you'll have a better true read and just a happier team in general. So I love the fact that Balto wakes up every day. Our team wakes up every day obsessing over these concepts for our customers. We know the contact centers that figure out compliant guidance while allowing their agents to sound truly organic in the conversations will ultimately provide the best customer experience. So excited to go through some question and answer. We're going to go ahead and bring the team back into the conversation here and open it up for some Q&A. So welcome back, team.
All right. We have a couple of great questions in the chat. I'm going to get started with those while the rest of you watching can go ahead and add your questions in the Q&A tab. So we have our first question here from Jeff. Any information you would provide an organization in the health industry that has concerns using AI?
So with that, I'd say, with from a security perspective, we have, of course, our SOC 2 compliance. We see a lot of different industries adopting AI at different levels. But with our SOC 2 security compliance, you can know that all of your data is secure. And we'll work with you to make sure that we're following your security guidelines as well, and being able to use AI in the way that makes the most sense, but still be able to help empower you with these new tools and features.
And Kimberly, maybe to add to that, I know there's going to be, some contact capabilities when we wrap up to reach out. So I believe it was Jeff. Jeff, please reach out to us. We'd love to discuss specifically what type of information you want to make sure and protect. And we'll certainly run through that and do a proper vetting process so that you understand. We've got a pretty broad spectrum of some amazing healthcare clients that have, we've learned with, and they've helped us learn. We've helped them learn. So we're happy to have a much more tailored conversation around specific information you're looking to protect.
I would also love to ask Lisa about this too, because you're also in a highly regulated industry. What was your conversations internally like when you were thinking about implementing AI in your contact center?
We are actually owned. I guess, can you hear me this time?
Yes, I can hear you great.
Okay, perfect. We are actually owned by one of the largest healthcare organizations, and I will say it did take a bit to get through some of their hurdles and concerns. I do want to just say don't give up on it. Balto was able to work directly with any roadblock they tried to throw up, and because we were using Balto previous, we were integrated into the system. So you can get through it. It just can take some time showing them all the value that it does bring, all the protections that it does have. I will say it was a little slow going, but luckily we had Balto so we could continue on, and they were a great partner to help us through all of that. And so that's why I get to sit here today too and talk to you all.
Well, thank you. A question here from Rourke. I've noticed that with closing, it can sometimes take too long to check if items were said, so that they're all checked off before that call ends. For, I think, Sebastian, Eric, Christina, have you had any possible workarounds for that to make sure that checklist items at the end of calls are properly triggering, properly getting attributed to the agent on the call?
I can say in my experience with using it that the new checklist items, because they are listening for context rather than just did they say the phrase, they do take just a couple of seconds longer to check off than the near instantaneous, if you will, old style of Balto. That being said, the best workaround that I've seen so far is just instead of immediately hanging up the phone call with your customer, perhaps you just give it a second or two to sort of register. I've also seen, depending on how we want to wrap up that call, sometimes our win marker is a simple statement. I know that like in an appointment verification use case, great, we've got you booked for Friday the 13th. I know sometimes with the sales use case, great, your new account is such and such. So sometimes what we've seen is changing that last sort of sign off thing, making it your standard Balto item. Agents won't run into that. So if it does need to be a little more conversational, obviously I have some good CSMs that you can work with to help set that up. But we're always trying to improve our software. So something we're looking into.
All right. Question here from Pascal. Are we able to also provide possible answers for questions which come up, which were not previously defined and added to the playbook? A little bit of a teaser for Balto answers here.
Yeah, I can take this one. So yeah, this is part of the other people's insights too. So there's multiple areas actually where you can pull those insights. So a few that came to top of mind is we do have a whole insights feature that isn't connected to the limitations of the playbook. So you can ask, what are the most common questions coming up? What are questions that are coming up that my agents aren't providing answers to? And it will not only look through full transcripts of hundreds and thousands of your recent calls and pull those up, it'll actually break it down by how often it's coming up, which ones are most common, which ones are not coming up very often at all. So our insights feature that's included with our platform would be a really good way to check that. Also, we have a thing called Balto GPT, where on each individual call or even groupings of calls, you can ask in natural language. What are the types of questions coming up on this call? What are ones that we don't have like prompting for? Ask those types of questions and it will surface those to you. And then also those are what would be kind of top of mind available today. And then also we have some things that we're coming out with in the next few weeks, in the next few months, where it will be able to actually pull from your knowledge base, websites that you approve, anything that you have basically approved of, like, this is our internal website or this is our knowledge base, and pull answers from that. So even if you haven't put in a specific answer in a dynamic prompt, it'll be able to pull from the places that you have approved it to pull from, and then also be able to see in the reporting what types of questions are being asked, where is it pulling from, etc. So definitely look out for that. But I will pass it to anyone else if they want to add more to that question.
I think you covered it. A great teaser for what we have to come here as we continue to redefine what Agent Assist looks like here at Balto. We have a question here. I popped up on the screen from Tiffany. We have an issue where if a customer wants to cancel a subscription because of a death in the family, the sentiment falsely registers as negative. Would you have a suggestion for how to work around this leveraging post-call? At minimum, this is very helpful feedback for us. It's something we would like to probably bring to our engineering team. Because, like our sentiment analysis is based on primarily the language being used. This seems like a perfect example of a case where, despite this being a negative thing happening, it is not something that should be reflecting poorly on the agent who is taking that call. They're just responding to this unfortunate external circumstance.
Kimberly, I wish we had
wanna
Balto running so we could tackle that in real time, but sorry, Lisa, go ahead.
Yeah, good answer for us. I think just thinking about managing the team and when this might come up, I kind of welcome the ones that do show a negative to make sure the agent did have the empathy that they might have needed to have. And in this situation of the death, did they have the tone that you expect from your team when they're still requesting this cancellation? So it might be flagging it not quite how you want it to be, but it also gives you as the manager a chance to review it and then celebrate with them, because again, Balto scores can be changed. You can adjust that to be what you need it to be, but it also is a trigger to make sure you can peek in and make sure they are communicating the way they should be in this circumstance.
Yeah, that's a great call out. I have actually another kind of coaching related question here from Leslie. She's getting feedback from some tenured reps that they have started to avoid Balto pop-ups, these dynamic prompts, because they already know these procedures. It's a bit of a distraction. They're just barreling through. So for people who've been using Balto for a while, have you encountered anybody else having similar issues? Lisa, have you had any of your tenured reps express a similar concern? And how would you suggest that Leslie works around that?
Actually, I just had that conversation yesterday that she said I actually just I kind of ignore them. And so I kind of turn it around and challenge them to, okay, how do you want Balto to work for you? We always have new agents. We always have other people that might not be as confident in it as she is. So then I tell them, what can we do more of? What kind of prompts can we add? What do you think the team could do better? You might not need it, but how can you help me make it better for the team? And then they kind of pay a little bit more attention to oh, maybe that prompt should have the link in it, or maybe that. So they're doing a little assisting for me and still making our toolbox better for everybody else. And then sometimes you look at what their usage. Are they really using it? Are they getting the checkbox? They say they have it all, but they're not getting the win markers, right? So, okay, you know it, but you're not meeting my expectations. You're still missing your closing every time. You're still doing X, Y, Z. So and maybe they're not, maybe they're just, and I have some of those agents too. They top of the list, hit the scorecard, get the win markers all the time, but it's just challenging them to help me make Balto better so we can continue in the partnership and use Balto for all the different things it can do than just these little prompts and checklists for the new people. There's so much more it can do. Let them listen to their own calls, let them help you make more prompts, all those different things.
I'll add on to that as well. You know, we do have the agent GPT available. You build your knowledge base, your agents can query that in the application for, you know, whatever answers they need. Like Lisa said, if you do have tenured agents that find, you know, we're very good on our calls, we have a tremendous amount of company knowledge, designate those as your top agents in your user management page. Have that actually start to contribute to Balto and that knowledge base that you're building. Like Lisa said, loop in those agent experts. Let them know, hey, we're building something to help the whole team, not just yourself. We do see some better engagement that way when they feel like they're part of the build and not just part of the downstream process. So definitely something to call out there. Thank you very much for that example, Lisa.
Yeah, one last thing I'll add is sometimes, like as Lisa mentioned, things change, right? And sometimes it's the people who have been doing the same thing for the last 5-10 years are the hardest ones to change when a new, you know, things are constantly changing depending what industry you're in with regulations and requirements. And so even if they get used to those changes, like you let them know, hey, like, okay, if you're going to ignore it for now, like keep an eye on it though, because it can support those changes to your industry or changes to your call flow, or if a new best practice gets rolled out, that can be really helpful to be like, it does evolve, and that is part of like the continued evolvement of our industry. And then I also, you know, we teased a little bit of some of these future things coming out. We really focused a huge part of our research and development on those tenured agents, where how do we make this a tool that is useful for every single agent regardless of their tenure. And so some examples, and again, I can't give too much away because it's coming soon, but being able to, like, if they might know exactly the call flow, but if in a real estate example, they still have to look up that zip code on Zillow and see the location, that's something that Balto can automatically go and search that zip code as they're having on the conversation and pop up the Zillow link and say, hey, is this the address that they're looking at? That's going to be beneficial for a tenured agent, regardless of if they know what flow to go through. It's removing some of the steps that they have to take that might distract them from having a really good conversation, and that information's already pulled up. So not sure if I'm supposed to give all those examples, but there's just a few. Looking up their medication. Is it covered in or what is their doctor's name, those types of things that if you allow it to access those knowledge bases. So it's just one example where we really want to make sure that Balto continues to be supportive for your new hires and the people just starting and building those muscle memory of like what you need them to hit, but also continue to build a tool for your more tenured and experienced agents as well.
Awesome. And we have a question here from Ivy. Will any of these options be available for the scorecards? Is that around, I think, using AI to help build those out? Feel free to add more clarifying detail in the chat, Ivy. That's my thinking. Or what is our kind of roadmap looking like for scorecards?
So I'll actually take that one too, unless anyone else wants to jump in. Actually, a lot of the inspiration of these AI checklists and dynamic prompts came from our quality and compliance scorecard build out of our, we were calling it Copilot. As it's continued to evolve, it's our quality and compliance. So that AI prompting is built into that. If you have access to our older QA models, which is we called our real-time QA that uses more of the trigger types, it is going to connect to that as well. So that's something I would just follow up with your CSM to figure out how we can best support that. But I will say a lot of our inspiration for bringing this to real time started with that more post-call QA. So definitely should be able to overlap for you and provide you that coverage.
And we're looking at ways to make scorecard building easier, more automated. So look for some of those improvements down the line as well to kind of bring in some of the new learnings that we've had from bringing these AI triggers into the checklist and the playbook back to continue to enhance our scorecards as well.
All right. And with that, I actually have one last question for all of you in our audience today. If any of you would like to see more about this, are not currently a Balto customer or even are a Balto customer and would love to get a demo, please go ahead. I just published a poll for everybody. Let us know if you would like a demo and we'll get that set up for you. I also have a survey, it should be linked over where the chat and Q&A is. Very helpful for me as we continue to plan webinars into the future. And a huge thank you to everyone in attendance. Big thank you to all of our speakers. Lisa, thank you for coming. Everybody, thank you for taking your time out of your day. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.